What's up, Laker fans? Welcome to the Laker Film Room Podcast. I'm Pete, joined by Darius, and great night last night. Lakers get their first opening night win since 2016 behind a great team defensive performance and Anthony Davis looking like the best player in the world for the night. Just a comprehensive dominance from him in several facets of the game. The Lakers shot like crap. I think we hit 5 threes, and LeBron was not all that great, and the Lakers still beat a very good team that's also learning a little bit how to play with each other, right? With Julius and DiVincenzo and all of that. They're a different team than they were last year, and that's going to take a little bit of time. Nonetheless, a very exciting win. The energy was palatably different. This time a year ago, we were having "Who's Your Daddy" chanted at us for the second time, which was freaking killing me. And the difference in intensity and play-to-play, just engagement, really a great night for the Lakers.
Yeah, man, like yesterday in the text thread before the game, I think I sent us all something that like Max had said about the Lakers being cognizant of getting off to slow starts in the previous 2 seasons, and that JJ had impressed upon them that was not going to be the case this year, and they were going to hit the ground running and come out of the gate strong. Boy, did they. They were impressive from a competitive and mental stamina standpoint that I thought was very encouraging to me, Pete. And JJ talking after the game about the installs that the team had put in over the last several days and how, like, hey, we had 21 days to install everything.
Look, we installed a lot in the last 3 days. And it was a little bit opponent specific, but it was also just, we had 21 days of preseason to get all of our installs in. And so we kind of delayed installing some stuff, and we practiced it. We walked through it. We did some more today. That's really encouraging as a coach and for our coaching staff that our guys can pick stuff up and then go execute it. Not on the fly, but after having just a few reps.
And I don't think he was saying that as that's a lot of time. I think he was saying it as the opposite. That's actually not a lot of time. And as a new staff, they had a lot to put in because basically everything was going to be different. And it looked different on both sides of the ball. And there was a lot to break down from an X's and O's standpoint. And we'll get to that later in the game. But for me, it was a lot of this team working together on both sides of the ball in order to really hang with a team that's projected to be one of the better teams in the conference this year. And so my big picture takeaway was, yeah, there's kinks to work out and they're not where they need to be. AD mentioned that on both sides of the ball, and defensively, we could even be better. And after the game, JJ talked about being pretty happy with a lot of the shots that they got, particularly in the first half, and that they just didn't go in. But you could tell, too, that there's still stuff to work on offensively as well. There were some clunky possessions in there during different parts of the game. But overall, I was just super pleased with the commitment to what they wanted to do on both ends. Their execution level seemed pretty strong, and their competitiveness in terms of getting after the ball, particularly on the backboards, was great. JJ highlighted a couple of third quarter possessions where they did not close down the foul line very well, and they gave up a couple of long offensive rebounds. But those were basically the only plays where I felt like they weren't getting after it. And it was 2 or 3 plays that quarter, and that was it.
Well, and he was barking at him as they were doing it, which I was like, yes, JJ, because those long rebounds that bounce and hit the freaking elbow because guys are leaking out. It's get your ass fucking get the rebound, cover your spot. And so there was a appropriate level of as a coach, part of the job is to stop the bleeding in the places where you start to bleed, right? The players are engaged in the game, and we all know basketball is a game of runs. And part of getting out of that is being yo, wake up. We're slipping in this respect.
JJ has talked a lot about the people around him having care factor. He mentioned it after the game about his assistant coaches and the care factor for the game plan and being thoughtful about the game plan.
And as far as the specific game plan, I just thought, our coaching staff across the board was really thoughtful about how we wanted to defend these guys.
That's JJ himself as well. This dude cares. And in some points, he may care even too much because you could see how tortured he is in certain moments of.
He might not make it, D. Yeah, he puts a lot into it.
We were watching last night, and my oldest was just like, oh my. When JJ got mad about the foul call that didn't get called on Rui's fast break attempt where D'Lo gave the kickback pass to Rui, and then Rui had the ball knocked out, and JJ is like, where the F is the foul? And she was like, oh my, that's a lot of F words right there. And I was just like, oh, yes, JJ is ready. He is ready for that. And so
it's so refreshing.
There's a fieriness to him, and it shows the level of investment that he has, but also he is a thoughtful dude, man. Like after the game, you could just tell that he has a way of processing things, and his intake of what he's seen and then his output in terms of what he's talking about seems very much in line with what actually happened on the court. And it's refreshing to have a dude who just looks to be so very much tortured by the minute-to-minute action of the game and wanting them to do it right and being on them when he sees something that is not going on. Like D'Lo came out of the game at one point, and I saw JJ sort of say something to him, and then D'Lo was absorbing it, and then he started to walk off, and it looked like to me, and JJ was just like, no, wait, we're going to keep talking about this really quickly.
Good.
And you could tell that he was really emphasizing a point to D'Lo. And through a preseason and now an opening night game and all that comes with that, and there was a lot that came with this game, from just like the individual players to like opening night and like the Bron and Bronny stuff, which clearly seemed to be a part of the plan. There was a lot to, I think, digest and put into place for this game. But JJ seemed ready for it all to me. And that's encouraging to me for a guy that 4 or 5 months ago, Pete, we were just like, all right, the experience level, where's it going to be? And there's still going to be peaks and valleys when it comes to that. But the commitment and the focus level that he has seems to be able to raise his floor in that regard. And I'm pretty pleased with the trajectory of what it looks like so far.
Absolutely. And it's funny, we've been yearning for this level of organization that results from being that like that. And we've spoken about that idea so much through an offensive lens, but I was just in love with our defense last night, and they did so many things well. And remember, I woke up yesterday being like, man, who the hell's going to guard Ant? And Redick found the best answer. The best guy that we have for Ant one-on-one is Anthony Davis, which how incredible is Anthony Davis when he's the best answer you have to a problem in so many different spaces of the game. And so, Dee, just talk to me a little bit about AD's overall domination last night.
Well, before even Anthony Davis being the solution, we had talked about like, who's going to actually guard this dude? And we both fell on Austin being that guy. And we kind of went long on that idea of Austin's just going to need to get in there and be a pest and be a guy who's around the ball and just trying his best. And I thought he did great in that regard.
I do too, but it was more that we switched just from, again, I've been deep in the tape this morning in that like we switched a lot more, and JJ talked about this in postgame, and like we were showing at the level of the screen, which is a great call by you, right? That was part of our conversation yesterday, is you're like, I'd love to see AD showing up higher. And I'm like, we got not a lot behind AD. By the way, Rui freaking great on both ends, especially on the defensive end. Yeah, the help defense, where I thought Austin was really good defensively was as a help defender. So I'm going to do a film session that's really going to focus on the team defense coming up later today. And one of the things is like we put AD on the ball a ton in this game on Ant. But if you want to put any sort of pressure on Anthony Edwards, there's nobody on the planet that's going to be able to pressure Ant one-on-one and not be able to get by him. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like no matter how good of a defender you are, you get up into Ant's jersey, because it's not only that he's athletic, he's got all these like, he puts his front foot out and he'll stop after going. And so he's able to decelerate super fast, and he's got all these sweet like between the legs dribbles that pull it back that can send you flying toward the baseline if you're not careful. And so he's just a great space creator for himself. But you're arguing with yesterday, like showing AD up higher can put a little bit more pressure on Ant in ways that other guys can't. And so, but what you need is, if AD is going to press up on him, you need the next guy over. And so Rui on some low man rotations. Austin oftentimes, though, was the guy kind of as roaming and just like being in the correct spot to where it's like AD is going to chase Ant off of the 3-point line. You know the direction that he's going to chase him off into. And so Austin is waiting in that spot. And it's like, okay, now can Ant pull up and take a semi-contested 17-footer there? Yes, but I would argue that that's a win. That's for you. What you don't want is him at the rim or him driving and kicking to a wide open Naz Reid in the corner. And so let's take a break here, come back, keep it going about the Lakers team defense.
I think that's a great call on Austin being where he was supposed to be. Some of the plays that stood out to me was that when AD then contained and was able to sort of push Ant back to where Austin was waiting for him, that then allowed for AD to peel back to Gobert and then to be someone who could also protect the paint.
Yeah.
The thing about AD, multiple times during the call, the announcers were like, he's everywhere. And it's because he was everywhere. And Anthony Davis, it's interesting, man. Still, to me, one of the more underrated talents in the league. Someone who never gets quite enough credit for how good he can be on any given night. And he seems to be the player who is held to his ceiling more often, where other players are held to their floor. So
that's a great way of putting it.
Like if AD meets his floor, it's just like, yeah, great. We'll do that every night. But his floor is so high. And so it's just like, oh, well, yeah, you did what you were supposed to do. Really? 24 and 12 every night with elite level defense is what I'm supposed to do every night? Sure. And I will do that for you every single night. But please appreciate that for what it actually is.
That's all. Yeah.
Versus a night like last night where it's like, okay, I think he tied Wilt last night for 4th all time with the Lakers in terms of how many times he's done with the Lakers, of having a 35 and 15 night and just being the catalyst for the team's defense, being the player who could both show at the level of the ball and sometimes outright switch on to Anthony Edwards while still being the player who is going to protect the rim. He had 3 blocks. 2 of them were emphatic blocks at the basket. Another was him on an island against Dante DiVincenzo on the sideline where it's just like he blocked a 3 when it came right out of his hand. How good do you have to be defensively to block a jump shooter shot when it comes right out of his hand when you're a big guy and they can put you on skates? And offensively, Pete, I had talked yesterday about how important his jumper was going to be, and is he going to have Gobert believe him to a certain extent? And how much was Gobert going to trust the fact that AD was going to take his jumper? AD killed. He killed. And he made the reigning defensive player of the year look like someone who had no chance against him on 80% of the possessions that they were matched up. And shooting the jumper with rhythm, shooting it with confidence, and just everything that he did seemed to scream, like, not like it's my team now, because I think we do that too much, but basically being the guy that's like, I'm going to carry us and I'm going to make sure that we are in position to win this basketball game. And when he's this good, the Lakers are going to be terribly difficult to beat.
I love that show, Avatar, The Last Airbender. I'd recommend it to anybody. And the main character in the show is a guy named Aang. And Aang is a very sweet, good-natured kid who's just like really looking out for people. And the Avatar is capable of basically in battle, at certain points, just summoning a level of ass whoop that ends the fight. And AD reminds me of that, in that he can go into the Avatar state in certain games. And it's just like, man, this guy's just so comprehensively good at basketball. Definitely the headline for sure. But there's also a certain level of like asking Aang to go into the Avatar state every day. It's like, and acting like he's an asshole for not is, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And now there are some guys like Jokic to me that's part of his superpower is just the freaking motor year after year, possession after possession. But like, that's the exception, right? Like, and especially with as small as we've been the last several years, AD's burden, he's basically carrying all our shit. That's why I would make the couch comparison last year. And where it's like, yo, just pick up the other end of the couch. It's not that hard, but just give him like a little bit of help. And that can be in the form of defensive organization. Be in the right spot. Have a plan for this team. Understand the talent that you have versus the talent that they have. Play the right lineups.
All of that is spot on. Play him with a second big.
Yeah.
Play some zone for a little bit. Leverage all of his talents. I can't wait to see what you do with the defensive breakdown that you're going to do. But to me, what I saw on a first watch was, oh, look, it's AD at the level. Oh, look, it's AD in a drop. Oh, look, it's AD being low man. Oh, nope, look, now he's out on the perimeter a little bit. And even beyond AD, like, oh, look, it's Jackson Hayes at the level. It's Jackson Hayes switching. It's Jackson Hayes then recovering. The recovery that Hayes made to block that Conley three, you've talked about a ton. Get this dude on the perimeter. Let him close out and use his athleticism. I thought this was a great Hayes game, for example, as well. But the coaching staff putting the Lakers' best athletes in the position to be their best athletes, I thought was just like an aha moment that didn't come as much as it should have come last season, right? And it was just, to me, another example of how it really does take the full team in order to leverage all of the tools that your best players have. And again, on a night where LeBron was good, but not great by any means, and AD was amazing, that the Lakers then got enough contributions in all of these other places in order to get them the win. And in the first half, I was just like, oh my goodness, what's going on with D'Lo? He had a bunch of open threes. I thought there were like little minor redemption arcs for a bunch of players throughout the course of the game. Like, I thought LeBron was great in that fourth quarter shift. I had tweeted it out. Like, there's a big shift for LeBron that's coming up. AD's about to go to the bench. Minnesota has closed the gap here. And LeBron instantly got an and one going downhill where he hadn't really looked that aggressive all night. He hit that big three down the stretch that the game was pretty much out of reach then, but his three made it so that, okay, it's 12 points now. This game is over. And I thought D'Lo in that stretch of the fourth quarter as well really did some things with his passing, his hit-aheads. He had that great secondary lob look to LeBron where LeBron had run the lane and he was calling for it. And then the ball went the other direction. But like a great quarterback, D'Lo was just like, okay, well, you're on that backside. Once you come across the middle, I'm going to look for you late and you're still going to be there. And he hit him with a nice pass. He put the player in jail and had that little floater. And the lead went from 4 back to 10 and the Lakers regained control. And that was with AD on the bench. And so that's picking up the other side of the couch, as you would say, right? Like AD had carried them for so much of the night. And what he needed was a couple of his teammates that can do that to step up. And I thought LeBron and D'Lo really showed their mettle in that fourth quarter to help turn the game back in the Lakers' direction.
D'Lo got the Lakers offense uncorked in that stretch, and it was so important. Just his decision-making and passing. He was a good contributor defensively last night, and the whole, like, be in the right spot. His closeouts were way better than a lot of times last year. There were several, like there was one possession, and if you're going to watch the film session, some of this will be able to pair with video. But there was a closeout on Alexander Walker on the right side, near the right corner, where D'Lo had dropped into the paint because there needed to be some help on Gobert, I think it was, and then get back out to Alexander Walker. And so the skip pass gets made, and the closeout's far enough to where you're not going to be able to close out, get a hand up, and recover and slide your feet at that point, right? Like that's the ideal, how you want to close, slide, and recover. That's not happening, and there's too much distance to cover. And so D'Lo, and this is the key difference between last year and this year, D'Lo sprinted to the closeout and flew by him like the fly into the first row type of closeout. We were doing the exact opposite last season of pulling up short. And as that being just sort of a rule, like, we'll live with that type of jumper. Now, think of how much harder that makes it on Alexander Walker. It's the difference between a feet set, catch and shoot jumper from like a step up to the left from the right corner versus shot fake, rip through, sidestep to the right. Now you're in the corner. You know what I'm saying? There's a level of complexity to that shot that doesn't exist in just a pure catch and shoot. So it's like, it's these winning on the margins. That's a way to win on the margins. Like Max had a couple of plays where if he hadn't have fouled the guy, he picked up 5 fouls in 11 minutes, right? And wasn't great in the game necessarily, but where he fouled the guy under the basket where he was covering for somebody, or it was like, it could have easily conceded a layup right there, but he fouled Julius on one, he fouled Gobert on another, and they split the free throws. He saved us 2 points in that little sequence like there, right then. That's another, Redick talks about winning on the margins. Like that's a way to do it too. And so there was just this across the board contribution to that. And this is the version of the Lakers again that makes 5 3-pointers. There's also going to be versions of this team that light the nets on fire on some nights. And Lakers went up against a very good defensive team and a big physical team that we were worried about before then. So let's go to break. And when we come back, talk a little about the offense.
Yeah, so the Lakers did not shoot the ball well. I'm going to be very interested this year into how many games they win when they don't shoot the ball well and how much variance they can create within the game when it's just like, oh, we're 5 for whatever they were. The Lakers' ability to still touch the paint and get to the paint is an elite skill that this team is going to have with LeBron and with AD. And even with like a player like Rui, who is really showing a good amount of feel for how to cut and where to be and how to attack mismatches. I thought Rui played with a level of force that was super important. He had a couple of dunks. He dunked on Gobert. He dunked on Julius Randle. Those are big plays, right? And then I thought that a lot of the ability to create good shots was mostly there. There were a few shots where I'm just like, that's not a good shot. I thought Max took a couple of very like quick threes where he felt the closeout bearing down on him. And then he's just like, this is the shot that I'm supposed to take. And I think with time, he will start to get a little bit of a better feel for whether or not that's a let it fly shot versus a ball fake. Oh, nothing there. I got to move it. But overall, I was pleased with the level of organization the team showed on offense as well. I was also pretty pleased with what the Lakers did when LeBron was out of the game and how to feature Anthony Davis. And then in the fourth quarter, LeBron basically putting on his Magnus Carlsen hat and being like, no, the dude who we're going to cook right now is we're going to cook Gobert. AD has got it going. We're going to attack Gobert. And he kept going to these actions to get AD the ball on the move where he could then just attack. When AD has it going offensively like that, Pete, it's like he can be a pillar of the offense. And we don't often think of him that way, but he was the guy that was just like, I'm going to go get you a tough bucket.
We got volume for AD last night. 23 shot attempts. I don't remember how many free throws, but it was like 13, 14, somewhere in there, maybe even beyond that. And like that, we've been begging for that, D. And so
15 free throws.
15 free throws and 23 shot attempts. He missed some bunnies, right? Mike was talking to him about that afterward. But there's a certain like, we need you to carry the load on both ends of the floor when LeBron isn't at his best for the full 48, right? And I'm curious your thoughts on how we got that volume, because my rewatch so far has been way more defensive focused. So I can't provide quite the level of detail on the offensive end for him.
The thing that I will point out is that anytime the Lakers go into horns, it's like, that's a play call to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love horns for him, right? Triple threat position at the elbow, 15 feet from the rim.
One of the things I'm quite enjoying about JJ are his ATOs and his ability to diagram in action. And so the play to start the third quarter, I believe it was, they've been doing some great things out of horns. They ran an Iverson cut for Austin. So Austin goes from the right side of the court to the left side of the court. The Lakers are in a horn set, and so LeBron and AD are both at the elbows. They're at the foul line. They run Austin off of an Iverson cut using LeBron and AD as the screeners. All of that ends up flowing into an empty side ball screen with Austin after he catches the ball, and LeBron, who was the second screener in horns, but then is going to then flow into a ball screen with Austin on the left side of the court. Austin is able to get middle rip, throw the pocket to LeBron, and then LeBron gets AD on the lob. And it's just a beautiful action in order to get AD an organized touch out of that. And so every time the Lakers are in a horn set, Pete, it feels like they've got a few different options off of that. And they were running similar horns actions for Connect when Connect got his shift. You asked me about like getting AD a certain amount of volume. To me, a lot of that is just intentional touch the ball. Like, and so after the game, JJ had mentioned like, hey, AD knows that we want to play hit-ahead basketball. We want to play in transition. And so the ball's going to go up the court, and sometimes naturally he's going to be in a trail position. And he might not touch the ball for 3 or 4 or whatever number of possessions in a row. But outside of that, we're going to play through him, and we want him to get the ball. And it's not always just hammer him in the post, and he did get some post touches, but it was elbow touches, it was pick and pop, it was pick and roll, it was playing through horns where he gets the ball at the top of, like at the elbow, it was DHO actions where he can play in keeper, it was DHO where he doesn't do keeper, but the guys just come off and now it's a single isolation and he can just ISO against Gobert or ISO against Julius Randle, and him just getting the ball more and in varying spots on the court is going to allow him to get up shots, because it's like that's how Jokic is able to control a game. He leads the league in touches. Of course, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants on offense. And so AD is never going to be at that level where he leads the league in touches. He's got too many other good high usage players around him. But playing through him more, Pete, is going to allow him to just be a decision maker. And at some point, when everyone cuts and everyone moves, it's like a QB who's both a passing and a running threat. When you drop back to throw and then everyone is covered, you're like, all right, I'm going to take off and run now because there's no one to stop me. That's going to be AD at times in the half-court offense. He's going to get the ball. They're going to run some stuff around him. Oh, the DHO's not quite there. Oh, this isn't going to flow into anything. I've got the ball. I'm better. How many players in the league are you going to say that when AD is matched up against him one-on-one, that defender has the advantage over Anthony Davis? How many times?
A lot will rely on his jumper. And so he gets in a certain flow where when he's in that state, he's one of the great mid-range jump shooters in the league. Like, it's not an accident that he makes these shots. He's legitimately good at all of these sort of contorting shots and these mid-range jumpers that for a lot of players would be really bad shots. But when he's got it cooking and he's getting volume up, he can really get it going in a way where, yeah, not a lot of guys can stop him. But I need to see him those jumpers go down consistently enough to have faith in that. But yeah, when he's like that, no, you can't do anything with him.
But my point to you and my point to Mike has always been, we'll give him the ball more to help facilitate that rhythm.
And you've been right the whole time.
Right.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying that they are going to fall at that rate every game, but I think you are going to better enable those results by playing this way rather than saying, it's going to be sporadic, but be that good anyway. It's just like, no, that's not fair to him as a rhythm player. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for from Anthony Davis within the context of the offense. Let's pivot away from AD for a moment. And before we wrap up here, what were your general impressions about any of the other players? We hit on LeBron and D'Lo a little bit, but you can go in their direction as well.
I actually want to go to a particular stretch, the start of the second quarter, because I thought that group gave the Lakers the first real separation of the game that the Lakers maintained. Got tight when it got down to 4, but the Lakers really controlled that game, and that was the stretch where they pulled ahead. If AD's off the court, especially with Vando out, it's very difficult to cobble together a great defensive unit. So there's a certain amount, be what you can be. And I thought Redick put a great offensive group out on the court. So think about this. It was D'Lo, LeBron, Jackson in AD's place. I think Rui was in that. Was Rui in that group? Maybe I'm missing it. And Connect was in that group. Basically, all 5 guys on the floor were like, oh man, every one of these guys can fill an offensive role that makes this group. And that's also at a point of the game where teams often have the least amount of rim protection on the floor and just sort of ability to guard in ways that would make it easier to stop a group like that. And so I've been wondering, hey, how are we going to win the non-AD minutes? And I think one of the approaches is let's be freaking awesome on offense and then be organized on defense. Jackson had an interesting defensive night in that, he had that great closeout. They were also really attacking him in his body. We lost some offensive rebounds, and he's very obviously a target. But that group D was really good on the offensive end, and I thought the duo of Dalton and Hayes, especially, were Dalton has a level of gravity that there were possessions where he was drawing 2 defenders and then hitting Jackson on the roll, right? There's just great spacing with that group that I just think that's the idea to start the second quarter. I'm really into it.
So that group was a +9, Pete.
Nice. How many minutes?
I'll have to look right now. I'm up at Popcorn. So this is a great tool, popcornmachine.net. I've followed them on Twitter, and they run a great site, and it's they have these box scores, but they have game flow box scores where it just shows you who's in. And it's nothing fancy. It just shows you who was in the game and what they did as a group. And it was LeBron, Rui, D'Lo, Jackson, and Dalton. And in that portion of the game, it looks like they were a +9 in about 4.5 minutes. They started the quarter and played until the 7:34 mark before they made their first sub. And that first sub, they went to AD and Austin. And then that group, they just continued the run. And that really was the difference in the game. And that ability to have offense there, we often talk about supporting LeBron in all of these different ways, support him on defense or give him shooting or give him athleticism. That was the best of all of those worlds. He had an athletic front court partners with Rui and Jackson, and then he had shooting and shot making in D'Lo and Connect and Rui. And he had a roll man with Hayes, right? And so whatever avenue you're going to go down, and then on top of that, you have D'Lo and Hayes connection, which is also I think that they've got beautiful chemistry, particularly on lobs and just in the pick and roll. Your case for Connect being this sort of complete offensive player, I thought we got a beautiful look at how he can impact a game offensively. I think he played a 8 or a 10-minute shift. He played a long stretch. Did not stick out like a sore thumb at all. Looked like a pro's pro. Came off a couple of pin downs. They ran an action for him. He hit a 3. They run a different action for him. And he's able to then throw, because he's got good size, he threw over the top to Hayes on a roll. Because he's a threat coming off of the pick, Gobert had to stay high. And it's that opened up the roll lane for Hayes. Hayes got that monster dunk where it looked like Bob Beamon jumped from the damn 3-point line it looked like when he dunked that ball. Connect's also an impressive player in transition. He can get from 18 feet out to the basket with one good dribble and just use his size and just explode and get to the basket and finish. He can go up and under. He can rise up high and get a dunk. He's going to be so useful. And that group being hey, we've got athleticism and shooting. Not only shooting, but shot making. D'Lo and Dalton are shot makers. They can hit difficult shots. And then you've got LeBron. there's just a good mix there. And I'm intrigued by what that group can do. And then when you then start to sub guys out and you bring back in Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, and I thought Austin had a really good, tough, like hard-nosed game yesterday. The way he competed on both of the backboards, the way he hunted offensive rebounds. These are all the things that JJ's been preaching about, like win on the margins, go to the glass, you win the possession battle. 7 turnovers, 15 offensive rebounds. The Lakers didn't get to the foul line a ton as a group, but AD did. And so a lot of little ingredients that went in the Lakers' direction, Pete. And opening night win, man, you got to love it.
Good stuff on a night where LeBron and Bronny make history. We'll open tomorrow's show with that. But until then, you've been listening to the Laker Film Room Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.
James has got it in low to McHale. McHale wants to turn. He's double teamed. Just pass out in front. Broken up by Worthy. Tip to Magic. Worthy dies on his belly. Magic scores.
There's Magic got it. Magic fires. Again, the Lakers win the game. The Lakers win the game. Rebound is Lonnie. 3 seconds left. Van Exel to win it. It's on the way. Good!
Kobe Bryant, 48 points, 16 rebounds. Shaq with his 8th block shot that ties an NBA Finals record.
A lot of Laker fans sticking around for this.
You're seeing something that's very rare indeed. A Laker to get MVP chance
in Boston. Of all places.
Are you kidding me?
Kobe, hard to believe.
Are you kidding me? Unreal. Are you kidding me?
Lakers looking to push. Bryant spinning in the lane. Back for Gasol. Pretty pass. And it's back to a 3-point game.
Kobe Bryant picked up by Bell. There's the move. 2, 1.
Miss it.
Unbelievable. For the victory. It's over.
Shot clock now to 5. Bryant. Yes. And that was a little tap to Alvin Gentry.
Add insult to injury, Kobe. I mean, what a shot. I mean, you can't defend that. Are you kidding me?
2.1 seconds remaining. Denver a foul to give. Jokic trying to disrupt Rondo. He puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony Davis has won it for the Lakers! James again. Oh, he hits another one. LeBron James putting together a closing quarter against the Nuggets.
This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters.